Welcome back. Hopes that the national carrier Nigeria Air will take off has been rekindled following updates now that operations will commence in October under the management of Ethiopian Airlines. This is according to the CEO of the airline, Mesfin Tasiu. The Nigerian government will own 5% in Nigeria Air. Ethiopian Airlines will control 49% stake in the new company, while the remaining will be held by Nigerian institutional investors. Now, local airline operators in Nigeria are opposed to the launch of Nigeria Air, saying Ethiopian Airline is a competitor and that with a 49% stake in Nigeria Air, that could potentially increase Ethiopian Airlines' influence in the domestic aviation market and the Nigerian economy. They have since headed to court to stop the launch of the new national carrier, and the court has actually ordered a stay of action on the launch of the airline until the suit is dispensed with. As a result of that suit, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has so far denied Nigeria Air the mandatory air operator certificate before it can launch operations. Now, on May the 26th, the immediate past Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, unveiled an aircraft supposedly belonging to Nigeria Air amid so much excitement. But shortly after the aircraft left the aircraft left the country, sparking another round of controversy. For the latest update on the national carrier, I'm now being joined on the show by Zemedene Nagatu, who is the global chairman of Fairfax Africa Fund, one of the key figures in Nigeria Air Initiative. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Now, tell us, how close to reality are we in the launch of Nigeria Air?
But first of all, as always, thank you very much. It was great to be. The answer to your question is it's going to be realized very soon. And perhaps very quickly, I'll give you a background. This whole process that the consortium, the investors have been involved in is almost 18 months, almost 2 years now. And I mean, the tender was issued, an international tender was issued in 2022. So it's taken a lot longer. To be very frank, this airline should have been flying last November 2022. The money's in the bank. The aircrafts are ready. Pilots have already been trained. Everything is in place, except to our surprise, there was a lawsuit. And the lawyers, when they initially saw it, they thought this is meritless because the facts supposedly stated in the lawsuit, we thought any judge within 5 minutes could see none of it was true. For example, Nigeria does not get any special privileges whatsoever. It will be operating under the same laws, regulations, and terms and conditions that any other airline in Nigeria would operate in. But that was stated in the lawsuit. So I would think a judge or whomever is looking at it would have said, wait a second, it's easy to verify. We got nothing. But that is what delayed the process. The investors have been ready since last year. As I said, the $250 million commitment was there since last year. And all the elements that is needed. I mean, for example, Ethiopian Airlines, as a strategic partner, which owns 49%, had already trained Nigerian pilots at its aviation academy. In fact, some of them are already flying for Ethiopian Airlines. So the short answer to your question is, if we didn't have any of these unnecessary hurdles, Nigeria should have been flying last year.
Now, we understand the next date of the launch is in October. How correct is that?
So I think you saw the interview by the CEO of Ethiopian Airlines the other day on another media. He did indicate probably October, November timeframe. As I said, if it's not some internal paperwork, regulatory hurdles, unless we don't face any of those challenges, October is realistic. I would say Q4, early Q4 would be a fair statement because everything is ready. Okay, it's not the lack of commitment or resources from the investor side that is holding up the launch. It's really the lawsuit, which, by the way, the Lagos lawsuit that was originally filed was dismissed, and it was apparently moved or requested to be moved to Abuja. So I'm not sure where that is, but certainly the only thing that held us back, even to get the AOC. So when we went through the process of getting the AOC, which Ethiopian Airlines has acquired AOCs in many countries. It's a standard procedure that can easily comply with. They have the aircraft, they have the operating manuals, all the requirements to get an AOC is ready, but they threaten lawsuits, saying, no, don't give them. They go to the NCA and say, if you give it to them, we'll sue them. They go to others and say, if you give it to them, we'll sue them. That's the only reason this airline has not been flying. But right now, I think we've cleared all the hurdles. At least we're optimistic. So hopefully Q4, early Q4, the airline should be up and running. And this is for the benefit of millions of Nigerians.
How would you address the concerns of these local airline operators who have filed a lawsuit against the launch of the airline?
Very good question, DEJI. I have been engaging the airline industry in Nigeria for the last 17 years. I'm not a newcomer to Nigeria. We're obviously Fairfax, our firm, is the investment bankers. We've done 14 airlines in Africa. For example, to give you an idea of how realistic, how serious we are, I led the team that liquidated Virgin Nigeria. So we learned from that mistake, what was done wrong. And if we start another airline, what not to do. Okay. So the answer to your question is, how do we address the concern? Nigeria can use multiple large, reliable airlines, not just Nigeria Air. Okay. It can use 5, 6, considering the size of the population, considering the GDP of Nigeria, which is the largest in Africa. There should be like 5 or 7 or even 10 Nigeria Air. So the whole idea is Nigeria will come in and collaborate with local airlines. By the way, Nigeria Air is a local airline. It's a company that's been registered in Nigeria as a Nigerian company. Just that Ethiopian Airlines is coming in to invest 49%. So we have to also make the distinction when we say local. Nigeria is a local airline, owned majority by Nigerians. Okay? So what we're looking for is collaboration. I'll be very frank with you. When we first approached almost every local airline in Nigeria, we had approached them, okay, to be investors, or either myself or our team. All of them declined. All of them, they never thought it would take off. Even some of the airlines that later on filed a lawsuit, we'd approached them. Say, come on in, let's collaborate, let's grow together. And that's, by the way, is still open. That opportunity is still open. We may start with 250, but if they want to come in and co-invest with us, we can increase the equity shareholding to 350 million, and then they can participate with us. So it is still open. We want collaboration. Secondly, Nigeria Air will de-risk the perception of the airline industry's risk from outside. I can tell you, we had reached out to lots of potential investors, aircraft lessors, and everybody said Nigeria is high risk. So if Nigeria Air succeeds, okay, just this morning we saw on the news, one of the local airlines, it folded, right? In fact, it just so happens also to be one of the airlines that filed a lawsuit to prevent Nigeria from taking off. The second plaintiff, its operations were suspended temporarily a month ago. So what I'm suggesting is, why don't we collaborate? Let's work together. We're happy to bring them in as equity shareholders, or let's find other means. Let me give you, for example, other ways Nigeria will contribute to the industry. There'll be, not only is this going to be an airline, it's going to be an aviation group. For example, we will have a large MRO facility, maintenance facility, based in Nigeria, in Abuja. It will be built by year 3. That's our plan. At the moment, all these airlines, Nigerian carriers, who are, by the way, underfunded, okay, very underfunded. The business model in Nigeria for airlines has to change. I've said this to our friends in the airline business, as I said, for 17 years. It's not the same. One of the reasons is maintenance is expensive. They have to send aircraft offshore in dollar, paying in foreign exchange. Nigeria Air will have a very large maintenance shop. They can co-own it together with Nigeria Air. There'll be an aviation academy, very similar to what Ethiopian Airlines had. It's actually Ethiopian Airlines now is elevated to a university level. Just last week, they graduated 1,500 aviation professionals. So Nigeria is not there to disenfranchise others who are there already. No, it's not. That's a misperception, a misinformation that's been spread consistently. It's not. The other thing you need to remember, it's actually a private sector investment. They will contribute by providing office space, leases, but they get a share. And one other thing I can tell you from our experience doing airlines across Africa, no government in Africa should fund an airline. it's unviable. We've seen it. There's a long history. Government should stay out. What they should do is make the policies, the operating environment, the ease of doing business, make it easy for airlines to succeed. For example, the free zone concept for that the government has set up, the new law, that's fantastic. Okay, so all the other airlines would benefit, Nigeria would benefit. Those are the kinds of this government should do in Africa. We've seen governments funding. There are other, including the Nigerian government, they have other priorities. Private sector can do this successfully, but you need size. It's a critical size business, capital intensive. And I'll add one last comment on this one. The model you have in Nigeria, we don't see anywhere else. The ownership model we see in Nigeria for airlines, we don't see anywhere else in the world. No one outside of Nigeria owns airlines as a single individual, no matter how wealthy you are. It's not sustainable. A single jet costs $250 million. A single jet engine maintenance could cost you up to $10 million. And nobody, maybe Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, maybe he can fund it, but even then he would have questions, why am I funding? It should be left to professionals, large carriers like Ethiopian Airlines. That's the benefit Nigeria brings, is the 77-year experience of Ethiopian Airlines with the largest fleet in Africa, one of the 25 largest airlines in the world. Last year in 2022, it was the most profitable airline in the world. That entire system, when it comes to Nigeria, it will make the airline successful. The cost, let me finalize this. The acquisition cost of aircraft of Nigeria is half of what any Nigerian airline today could pay. Half. We've benchmarked it. The insurance premium would be half of what Nigerian carriers are paying because of the strategic partnerships they have with Ethiopia. So what I'm saying is, let's collaborate. Let's get this off the ground and let millions of Nigerians fly reliably at affordable price at good quality. That's the message I want to send today.
Now, are the aircrafts intended for the launch of operation now? Are they on ground? Are they in place? That's one of the questions people are asking here in Nigeria, that the other time an aircraft was brought into the country, painted in Nigeria air colors, but then it left the next day. Have you got the number of aircrafts now required to begin operation?
DEJI, I'm glad you asked me this question. You know, I was on that aircraft that came to Abuja for the launch. By the way, a static display aircraft like that before a launch is normal industry practice. Okay. Yes, Ethiopian Airlines, as a strategic partner, brought an aircraft, painted. It was to display to the Nigerian public, this airline is about to take off soon. Okay. The fact that it was owned by Ethiopian Airlines, by the way, which is 49% a strategic owner, contributing, with the Nigerian government paid zero. I assure you, the Nigerian government did not pay a penny for the painting, for the fuel, for the crew. It was incurred by Ethiopian Airlines as a strategic partner to display to the Nigerians. And let me fast track very quickly though. 3 weeks later, after we did the Nigerian one, there was a similar launch in Saudi Arabia for Riyadh Air, owned by the Saudi government. The 777, that was a static display, very similar to what we do in Abuja, was not owned by Riyadh Air. It was leased, okay? It was chartered from Boeing in the United States. You can see it on the tail. So a lot of misinformation went out saying this was designed to mislead the public. No, it was a static display by one of the shareholders to display to the public this airline is about to take off. Second question you ask is, do we have the aircraft? The aircrafts have been ready since last year, okay? There is no issue with aircrafts. It's all been negotiated and is ready. We just want the final clearance for the airline to take off, and they'll be there. So there is no issue with finance, no issue with aircraft, no issue with crew, both cabin crew and cockpit crew. They're all ready. We just want some of these bureaucratic hurdles and the misinformation to really please understand Nigeria needs an airline, okay? And that's what we're there to partner to grow the airline industry in Nigeria.
All right. Zamedine Nagatu, the Global Chairman of Fairfax Africa Fund. Thank you very much for your time, sir, and thank you for talking to us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.